microphones. I appreciate your patience and listening to that. We'll have that for people to read later. It was written with a lot of passion, but I think if I tried to say it, I would tear up like I'm doing now. I think when I was coming back to visit, I kept thinking that I wouldn't be here talking to you if 9/11 hadn't happened. And in the film of Bettina Moss, and again, we'll have some cards where you can watch it. She has featured my painting in her film and actually made me love life again because of it. Many of the people who lost loved ones in 9/11 also said the same thing. If I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't be the person I am today. If I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't have met my partner, Scott. If I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't have moved to Texas. If I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't have the pain or introspection to become a better human being. And what I would like to do in an unorthodox way, we are here together, but what I would like to know, if anybody's willing, is to share some thoughts about where they are today versus then. Because what we do share is we share this event. This forever changed who we are as human beings. Or if you would like to share a story about 9/11 with us, I would like that as well. I'd rather do this and answer questions about painting specifically. We can do that privately. But for me, it has so transformed who I am. And even today, the airplane ride that we had coming back, we had so much security that's completely changed the way we are. So you had raised your hand. Would you be willing to share? Of course. Is this okay? Yes.
So before I arrived here, I went online to this. This painting changed my life. I think it's one of the greatest works of art that is on the planet right now, because I believe we are a species on a planet, and I have a problem with that we're divided as a life form on this world. And before 9/11 happened, I was an artist in Boston, and I met a guy who had 2 tractor trailers that went up like speakers. And I was working with movement artists, and I was going to do one of those things where you lay down on the street. And it was in Kendall Square, which is behind MIT and Harvard in Central Square, Cambridge, Mass, just north of Boston. And I wanted to know what was going on Kendall Square, which is the epicenter for biotech. So in the context of that time, I thought something was going to happen and that our government was trying to pick a fight on the planet. This is how I felt at the time. And when I was standing in a designer job in Beacon Hill in this woman's house, that's where the television was when I saw the planes hit the tower. And this is just a true statement. The first words out of my mouth was, I didn't vote for him. That's just what happened. That's just a true statement. And because I felt that in the communication arts, I'm a free speech activist, artist, poet, so I follow how we are disseminated reality through media and words. Words mean a lot to me. I could just tell you a whole line of things that are beautiful and then follow it by the word but, and then say it might not happen, and everything I just said is not true. So when I saw this painting, I thought about the long-term healing of us as a life form and the work that it would do beyond you being, and I just interviewed David Amram, the musician for Kerouac and the Beats and Generation. He just mentioned Guernica to me in an interview just a little while ago. And so when I mentioned your painting on the Facebook comment, I mentioned that, so I was really happy that you brought it up. And the humility and your passion and mine and everyone in this room, I think is ultimately all valid, but we shouldn't turn against each other, because fear and hatred, one of my favorite statements, and maybe I'll leave this with you, is that hate and fear require to be hated and feared. in return in order to even exist. So if we feel so passionate about something and somebody tells us their passion and they clash, we're actually participating in a perpetuation of inhumanity, which ties into the title of your piece. So it's a question I think I'm asking everyone to step back from when you say the cycle of terror, and what that really means when we love our pain and our fear and our hatreds more than we do our resolve and what happened. And from what I hear lately, there are people all over the world that feel opposing ways about what happened on that day. And there's a very large movement of 9/11 being moved to The Hague as an international war crime so that everyone can get the whole truth, because I think that's what everyone deserves. People who died, people who were hurt, people who lost, and people who have questions and then were told to be silent and lost their jobs and careers because they had a question. And I think art should not be silenced, and I think Picasso did that, and I think whether it was by fault or circumstance, so did you, and thank you. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. It is, for me, this has been a very difficult painting. It's hard for me to picture back in the studio, but I thought about 9/11 for 4 years. Every day, really from 9 till I came home at night, sometimes midnight. Actually, when I finished the painting, a funny story, this might lighten the mood, because I had just finished the 9/11 painting, and usually what happens is I just stop. And like I said, the audience finishes a work of art. And I had stopped at midnight. The museum was going to come in a day to pick up the painting. I was working on one little passage. Seriously, before, they would have had to pull it out of my hands. And I said, okay, I stopped. I was finishing this area down here, trying to get the water a little bit smoother, because I'm obsessive. And I came back from my studio, which was about a 5-minute walk from where I lived in Amherst. And I was exhausted, and there were 2 little skunks right in front of the front door. Now, the thing is, I knew I had to come to the museum and help, and so I didn't want to do that to the skunks. And sort of, talk about feeling a part of nature, right there. But luckily, one of the many gods that I'd prayed to, the skunks went away, and I went inside and finished. But my point is that no matter what you plan in life or what you're going to do, something's going to happen and to keep you from getting inside. I know this is sort of I don't remember a lot, but I remember sort of whimsical things about that. But anyway, for 4 years I thought about 9/11. And then when I delivered the painting, this wonderful woman in the New York Times, who wrote a terrible review, made me want to just sort of, my family was here, balloons were ready, and I didn't feel like celebrating, because what I thought when I brought the painting out is that people were going to love it. The world was going to say, thank you, Graydon, for spending 4 years in your studio thinking about 9/11 every single day. And I thought, thank you, every single day. But she did write that. She lived in Amherst, and I was with my friend Steve, who's sitting on the front, and he would hold me back from going and writing nasty things on her front door, which I never did. That's because my parents raised me as a good Christian in Texas. That's why. Anyway, I didn't do that, but I did think about it, and her review decided to show up on something called Google, which we should have all invested in. Maybe some of you did, but I didn't. And I would be out at a restaurant, and they says, oh, you're Graydon Parish, I read that review about you. And that would go on more often than I would like, and it'd be like having a kickbait, like, you're that guy. And so I thought about it for another 4 years, and another 4 years, and then things changed, and I don't think there's a day I don't think about 9/11, for various reasons. And what is so special about being here is that actually, maybe what I said is having an effect. And I can think about that in everyone's lives. I mean, we're inundated with culture that tells us that we have to be instant. And instant good things don't happen. Things take time.